What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. The History Cup is still here. The last couple of days, I've been kind of struggling to climb much elo, but today I think I found my favorite Pokemon in this entire meta. Shadow Hippowdon is basically the most flexible Pokemon that I've seen in the History Cup at this point. It has a lot of great coverage with rock and ground type attacks, and because it's so flexible, so spammy here, it can be tricky for your opponents to take down. This Pokemon saved my Legend push, getting me back into the 2900s, so let's see what it can do. First game of the day, we see Abomasnow in the lead up against Lucario. Now, I don't want to be in this matchup, but we do have two ground types in the backline that can definitely deal with this later on. We see it's on Force Palm as well for that Lucario, and a Spiritomb counter swaps into our Shadow Hippowdon. We go for a Weather Ball of Rock. We're almost already at 2 attacks before this Spiritomb has even reached a single move. That's how spammy this Pokemon can be. They do no shield. I guess I would have rather gone for the full send on that attack, but at this point, I can still shield this up, get to 2 more Weather Balls, and I think at this point, maybe still get a shield advantage, or maybe get switch if our opponent doesn't want to go down shields. Weather Ball of Rock coming through, our opponent potentially might shield this up. If they shield once, so they have to shield twice. If they don't shield at all, then we just get switch advantage here. In comes a Dusknoir running Hex, and at this point, I know what I have to do. I can't give this thing a huge farm down, because no matter what, my Abomasnow has very little play in this game. We actually got a debuff as well with that Scorching Sands, which means now no matter what, this damage is going to do so much less to us here. We can shield up what is almost certainly a Dynamic Punch, but no, it's a Shadow Punch bait. But at this point, even if they do end up landing the heavy-hitting move here, we should be able to survive. We have to keep in mind they are on Force Palm on that Lucario, which does quite a bit more fast food pressure into Gastrodon, but we get a full farm down against the Shadow Dusknoir. In comes Lucario, in comes a Force Palm, but Water Pulse is going to do a massive amount of damage. In comes the first move, our opponent does opt to shield it up here. In comes the second move, though, our opponent still not quite yet at an attack here. This should either get the knockout or put them pretty low into the red. Our opponent does not have any shields remaining, we just get the slap down, able to take the win there, GG to our opponent. Next game, Abomasnow into the Abomasnow mirror matchup here. Now, this is not exactly the best matchup for my team to see, but take a look at our moveset here. We are running triple ice moves, which means we actually have quite a bit of play, where if we win CMP with Icy Wind, that's going to be amazing. If we don't win CMP, then at least we can outpace with the Weather Ball later on. In comes our first move. Icy Wind just barely puts them into the yellow. Our opponent now gets to throw a debuff move into us here, so I think we can neutralize this Pokemon so our 2 ground types in the back don't have to deal with it. Icy Wind number 2 will come through. I'm hoping it gets a shield or a knockout against the opposing Abomasnow. It's a chance here that they do survive if they have a good enough one. They do survive on what almost is certainly 1 HP here, but we can survive the move, get an energy lead on our Hippowdon, and hope that this was their best counter to ground-type Pokemon. In comes a Lucario, an insane read from our opponent here, maybe thinking that I have a second ground-type in the backline, because at this point, Lucario is slightly more playable into our Hippowdon here than it would be into our Gastrodon, so a good play by them. Let's see if they want to shield up a Scorching Sands, however. In comes the big move, our opponent going for the no shield. In comes a Gastrodon at this point, though it's a 3-on-1. While Gastro is pretty safe into our backline here, we can get to a Weather Ball Rock, I guess. I probably should have gone for the Scorching Sands. Not sure if I get to a second Weather Ball. I guess we will see in just a second. Okay, no, we do get the move. I guess that was the right play. A little bit of extra chip damage here, and now at this point, our own Gastrodon can come in, go for the farm down, or maybe 2 body slams if our opponent does stay in. They do end up realizing not much they can do against the Gastro Mirror. GG to our opponent. Next game, Shadow Staraptor. Oh my goodness, hold on. This is actually really bad for our team. We have no fast food pressure in the backline against this pick, and while we do super effective damage to them, these gusts are shredding through my HP. We're going to go, though, instantly for an Icy Wind. Our opponent does shield it up. We get to debuff them, which I guess is good. They throw instantly as well. I know Staraptor does not have any bait moves, so likely a Fly coming through. I think at this point, maybe come in Shadow Hippowdon here. Go for the Weather Ball of Rock. Maybe get a shield from them if we can. And I'm hoping that, once again, this is going to be their best ground-type answer. If it is, then we probably still have a lot of play in this game. If they do have another grass-type or a flying type in the backline, that could be a little bit tricky. I guess we can only see what they're about to bring in. Our opponent thinking for just a second here, they end up bringing in that Lucario. I believe that is Bullet Punch on Lucario as well. That is the second time in the video that someone's brought in a Lucario into Hippowdon. Crazy stuff. In comes the Scorching Sands, in comes the shield, and now we can farm them all the way down. Okay, Abomasnow, though, in the backline is not what we want to see. Our opponent making the huge read that I had Gastro, so that's why they brought in Lucario, just to drain the energy. I do have this shield advantage. I actually have 2 shields to 0, which means maybe I still have some play here. If they don't have Icy Wind, that means they can't debuff my attack stat. I shield up the move, Weather Ball does come through, but at this point, my Body Slams should be able to 2-shot them from this range. Once again, a move coming through from our opponent. almost certainly going to be another Weather Ball bait, but I know at this point that if I can go for the double body slam here, then we should be able to win this game. They're not quite yet at an energy ball. I know they need to go for the heavy hitting move if they want to one-shot us. In comes the next attack here, but what is it going to be? I think that's just a Weather Ball, though. I think at this point, this is not going to knock us out. Yeah, we don't quite get KO'd. Our opponent can try to come back in with that Lucario. They do come in with it, but we have the Water Pulse ready to go. We were going to farm down the Abomasnow. Down goes the Lucario. Down goes the Abomasnow in just a second here. Gastro putting in so much work against a Pokemon that conventionally you have almost no play into. Next lead, Togekiss, rather. A very good Pokemon to see. It's also going to be met by a Spiritomb on the safe swap. This Pokemon is a little bit tricky for a full team to deal with, but we can go for a chip and dip with this Icy Wind. Our whole team has played into this. We're not necessarily weak to it on any of our Pokemon, but we also don't have a hard counter to it, which is a little bit awkward. They let us get to this Weather Ball Rock before they even throw a charge attack into us here, which is amazing. Down goes a shield on a very weak move here from our opponent, and now they're going to throw what is almost certainly going to be a Rock Tomb, but might as well shield it up anyway. There it is, a Shadow Ball. You know, I think that most of the time these Spiritombs are probably just single moved, because I only ever see Rock Tomb, and they just top left. I guess that Shadow Hippowdon in there in the back lane is a little bit too tricky for them to deal with. Next game, Gastro, fantastic lead matchup. We are met by a Bibarel on the safe swap. All right, a bit of an interesting matchup. I go instantly for the body slam to get my turn back here. Our opponent might be going for a Hyper Beam. I've seen a couple of those here in the meta, but I would be surprised if Hyper Beam one-shots us from this range, even if they do end up having it. In comes the Hyper Beam, almost certainly. Is it going to be? It actually is. Okay, that does more damage than I was thinking. That is not ideal for us. I was thinking maybe I could still Mud Slap down after, but no, we're going to get Rollouted down. This is looking a little bit trickier than it was just a second ago. With that said, we can farm down with our Shadow Hippowdon, take almost no faster pressure from these rollouts, and I'm thinking the energy on our Hippowdon should be pretty good, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Lucario in the backline, at least something that's good against our Abomasnow. That wouldn't be too surprising to me, so let's see what our opponent's going to do. In comes the Scorching Sands. It will likely end up landing here no matter what our opponent has in the backline. They don't want to shield the Gastrodon when I have an Abomasnow left in the back for myself. In comes a charge move. I think that might have just been a body slam, but I know I have to shield this up. If it is that Lucario in the back, I need all of the HP on our Hippowdon that I can get. In comes a Weather Ball. Is this even enough to knock out? I'm not sure it is. I'm hoping that it is. Our opponent does let it go, and it does knock out, but in comes that Lucario as we were thinking it might be. This is going to be a tricky endgame here. I know Weather Ball Rock is resisted damage, but we do draw a shield. These sand attacks are super effective, but our opponent bullet punches us all the way down before we can reach a move. I think no matter what the moveset is here, one way or another, we're going to go down. If it's a power-up punch, it's going to be a longer matchup. If it's going to be a close combat, I guess they have all the nukes here this game. They one-shot our Abomasnow. Unfortunate for me, but GG there to our opponent. Next game, Lucario up against our Abomasnow. Terrible lead matchup, but I do have these two ground types in the backline. Once again, swap into my Hippowdon, and we are met by the Shadow Drifblim. Now, this is exactly what Hippowdon is supposed to do. You're supposed to bait out either the Abomasnow or the Drifblim by swapping into the Hippowdon, so potentially Gastrodon has more play in the backline. Our opponent overfarming just a little bit too much here. Maybe they underestimate how spammy Hippowdon can be. In comes the Weather Ball Rock. Does this draw a shield? It does. And now they're still going to have to throw energy. They can't farm us all the way down. They try to, but at the last second, we get a second Weather Ball, which will get their second shield. This means at this point, we have a 2 shield to 0 advantage. I know Gastrodon might not have a ton of play in the backline, but we should still be in a pretty good spot where we can take the Shadow Ball here, farm them down, or, oh, hold on, they swap into a Spiritomb, which means at this point, I think we're in a fantastic spot. All you need to do is use our Abomasnow here, get the Icy Wind off, farm down the Spiritomb with our Gastrodon, and then just invest in Gastro to sweep the rest of this game. Their Lucario is in the lead, right? That was their lead Pokemon. There is still a bit of HP on that Drifblim, and they do Rock Tomb debuff us, which is a little bit awkward, but I think I might still get the full farm down here. Mud Slaps knocking out that Spiritomb, and in comes the Lucario. I want to make sure I have enough energy in the backline as possible, and our opponent throws so early. I know that's not a close combat or a Shadow Ball. That is just a power-up punch. We can survive that move, go for the Water Pulse, and we're just one more Mud Slap away from the next one. In comes the move. This should knock them out pretty easily here, and now that we have shown Water Pulse, say no. I mean, honestly, I bet an Earth Power or a Body Slam would basically knock out from this range, but it doesn't really matter. This Water Pulse is definitely going to KO. Down goes the Drifblim, and Gastrodon getting a nice little endgame sweep. Next game, Lucario on the lead. We've been seeing a lot of these recently. We have play into this Pokemon, but we'll see what our opponent's going to do. They're staying in for just a second here. They throw a charge attack after 6. That could be a Blaze Kick. I haven't seen too many Blaze Kick Lucario, but potentially it is, and that is exactly what we end up shielding. In comes a Spiritomb, and at this point, I don't know exactly what I want to do here. I could go for a Weather Ball bait, but at this point, it's not a guaranteed shield one way or another. I guess we do get a shield here. Maybe I should have baited, but we do get to a second Scorching Sands before our opponent is able to knock us out. If we get a second shield, I would be a little bit surprised if they want to go down two, but they do use both shields, which means they get that full farm down. And at this point, I think we have play if it's going to be Double Ghost, with that Double Ghost being a Dusknoir, but if it's going to be the same team we've been seeing with that Drifblim in the backline, this could be a little bit tricky for us. We reach the Icy Wind. It's not going to knock them out here, but it will chip them down quite a bit. And at this point, I'm not sure if we can even farm them down before they Sucker Punch us down. I swap out, but they reach another move. And I mean, I know this is probably going to be a Rock Tomb, but I also know if they Rock Tomb, that probably means it's a Drifblim in the backline, which is exactly what it is here. Unfortunately, losing to that team, but GG there to our opponent. Next game is a Vespiquen. Okay, a very neutral lead matchup here. I have not seen too many of these in the meta, and a double kick Lopunny on the safe swap. I don't really have a great answer to this Pokemon, but I bring in our Gastrodon knowing that they don't have any grass type damage, and that Gastro can generally take whatever they're going to throw into us. Now, Lopunny is actually surprisingly bulky here. Water Pulse is going to come through. We actually win CMP against this Pokemon. Is this going to draw a shield, or at this point, will they let it go? They do let them move through. I think they threw a triple axle against us earlier, which is going to be a move that does boost their attack stat. I think we can still survive this next attack here, though. Mud Slap all the way down, and if that Vespiquen does come back in, at the very least, I can get a Body Slam off into them. In comes the move. Our opponent does not want to shield up a Body Slam of all things. I'm going to swap, though, into our Shadow Hippowdon, knowing at this point Weather Ball Rock is so spammy, and potentially, with that Body Slam chip damage, we might have put them into range where this move could knock them out. They are staying in, and the fact they swapped out a pretty neutral lead matchup makes me think there could be a Pokemon like a Lucario in the backline. I don't love the idea of that if that is the case, but I think our Hippowdon might be able to get to 3 Weather Ball Rocks before they're able to do too much to us. Let's see, though, what our opponent is going to do. Another Fury Cutter already going to be reached. X-Scissor, or X-Scissor rather, being reached with the Fury Cutter fast moves. I'm going to go for the Weather Ball Rock. Now, I'm 1 away from my next Weather Ball. Does our opponent have another move loaded right now? In comes a move here from our opponent. We were 1 sand attack away. They had the move loaded, which means down goes our Hippowdon. And unfortunately, oh, hold on, we survived the move? That is honestly amazing for us right now. We land the Weather Ball Rock, knock out the Vespiquen probably. What is the final Pokemon going to be? Okay, it is that Lucario. I guess we have some energy still. I know Lucario is pretty squishy, and while we are taking a lot of damage, unless they have close combat, they don't one-shot us with a move. We debuff their attack stat with that Icy Wind. Maybe they don't expect Weather Ball pacing. We're able to reach the Weather Ball here. This might knock them out. At this point, we do have that Mud Slap damage as well in the backline if we need it. We go for the catch. I mean, I didn't really try to catch. I wanted to snipe them down. But either way, what is this move going to be? It's a Thunder Punch. They must be on Thunder Punch close combat. They don't have back-to-back moves. I can somehow farm them down with a Bomb of Snow and take the win against the Lucario in the endgame. GG there to our opponent. Super close game. All right, next game is going to be a Gastrodon in the lead and a Bibarel as a safe swap. I think we've seen very similar teams like this in the past. It might be that Lucario as the third, and if that is the case, then potentially this time I want to play it a little bit differently. I don't want to take a Hyper Beam this time. I'm not even sure if that was Hyper Beam energy, though. I think it takes 7 rollouts to get to a Hyper Beam. That might have only been 6. Either way, playing it safe, making sure not to make that mistake like we did in that first game that we fought a team like this. In comes our Body Slam. They might let this go, knowing at this point an Earth Power is going to knock them out, but a Body Slam would not. They actually do end up going for the Overfarm here, too. I'm very interested to see if our opponent wants to shield this Body Slam, or at this point, if they'll let it go. They do let it go. They do survive as well, which is a little unfortunate for our poor Gastrodon at this point. We're going to go for the shield. I think we want to save our Gastrodon, though, saying that Hippowdon in the backline is not all that strong into that Lucario, especially down shields. But by swapping this Pokemon in, we keep our Mud Slap damage in the backline, and if it is going to be that Lucario, at the very least, we can dance around it a little bit here with this team. In comes another move here from our opponent. Has to be a Water Pulse or an Earth Power to knock us out. They go for the Water Pulse. It KOs our Hippowdon, which is a little bit annoying to see, saying it likely is that Lucario, but I think I can farm them down with our own Gastrodon. In fact, they come in with the Lucario, which means I think we can just go for these Body Slams as well as the much of that damage to put them into range where maybe even our Bomb Snow in the backline could deal with them. They're in the yellow at this point. They have to throw all of their energy to knock us out. Is this a Power Up Punch? No, it's a Thunder Punch, which does KO us, but I'm just 2 away from a Weather Ball here. There's a Gastrodon in the backline that as long as this Lucario goes down, we should be able to easily wall off all the energy from. In comes that Gastro and a Bomb Snow able to close out the backline. GG there to our opponent. Next game is a Spiritomb. Alright, a bit of a tricky Pokemon to see here, but very playable. We know that Rock Tomb is super effective into us and can lower our attack stat. but we have to keep in mind, if I can shield up the move, it's not going to matter that it's super effective, and I can debuff them as well with our Icy Winds. Our opponent is going to overfarm here just a little bit, but not too much. They're going to go instantly for the Rock Tomb now. This should be able to draw our shield, but because we can shield that up here, I can now clear our debuff, come in with our Hippowdon. If they're going to stay in, potentially, I can get a huge energy lead here. They're a -1 attack. Are they going to go for a Rock Tomb bait? I'm going to shield. Of course they're not. Of course they are, rather. No Shadow Ball going to be thrown that time. In comes a Gastrodon, which is not exactly the best counter to a Hippowdon, but what it is going to be able to do is it will take one of these Scorching Sands. We got a debuff, which is nice to see. I guess they're just using it here to avoid our Abomasnow. I'm going to be interested to see what their third Pokemon might be in this match. Scorching Sands number 2 going to be thrown in just a second. If they let this move through, I might be able to knock them out with this, even though I am at -1 attack. Scorching lands and knocks out the Gastrodon. Can we reach a Weather Ball? Just barely cannot. So at this point, who do I think is less important in this game? I think that Abomasnow might have a little bit more play, saying that we saw a Spiritomb in the lead, Spiritomb generally being one of the better counters in the game to a Pokemon like an Abomasnow. So I'm going to come in with our Gasho, take a move. I think we can survive a Shadow Ball one way or another and still get a nuke off, but we'll see if that was a good play. Okay, so potentially sacking our Abomasnow would have been better. I think, though, that with the energy lead that we have here, we're still in a decent spot. Another Mud Slap, another Body Slam being thrown. This is going to chip them down quite a bit, and unless they have Sludge Bomb here, it's not like they can one-shot our Abomasnow. These Mud Slaps are adding up quite a bit against our opponent. They're going to throw an Aqua Tail into us right now, which means they don't have enough energy to get to 2 crunches against our Abomasnow. We're just one single Powder Snow away from this Weather Ball. We can throw it now that we put them into range where this should knock them out, and Abomasnow going to be able to knock out the Poison-type Pokemon here and take the win. GG there to our opponent. Next game here, Abomasnow into the Shadow Gliscor lead. They swap out instantly, saying Ice-type damage is so effective into them. Although Hippowdon and Samurott is a Pokemon I don't have a great counter for on this team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Gastrodon, knowing that I can at least take one move pretty easily. Go for Body Slams as well. Hippowdon and Samurott is pretty squishy, so while I am debuffed, this should still chip them down pretty low. But if I want to win switch advantage, potentially I have to go down shields. And depending on the moveset of that Gliscor, going down shields would not be a good idea. I think maybe a play I could make is let this go, potentially farm down with our Hippowdon instead, and maybe that could be a good idea. They end up actually not knocking us out with that move, which means Body Slam might draw a shield. We do get a shield advantage, which is helpful to see, but can they get a move off against our Abomasnow when we try to farm them down? They do get a move at the last second. I know it could be an X-Scissor here. It might just be an Icy Wind, though. We shield the Icy, not exactly the play I wanted to make, but we do have a lot of energy. What is their final Pokemon going to be? It's a Spiritomb. Okay, there is a little bit of play. Switch advantage was not the most important for me in this game, although because there is that Gliscor in the backline, it is still going to be a little bit tricky to win this one. If I had Ice Fang here, the damage would shred through the HP of this flying and ground-type Pokemon. Unfortunately, we are not running that. We have Sand Attack, which is so little to the flying-type Pokemon Gliscor. We can reach another Weather Ball here in just a second, and 2 are not quite enough to 2-shot from full HP. With the Sand Attack damage, though, it might be just enough over time, but I need to be able to reach a 3rd Weather Ball if I want any chance to win this game. In comes the second one. Our opponent going to try to farm us down here. They are able to farm us down before the next one is reached, which means at that point, not much that we could do. GG there to our opponent. Next game, Bibarel. We know Rollout Fast Food Pressure would do a lot of damage. Hold on, maybe a bit of a mistake by us here. That is a Water Gun Bibarel. This is looking pretty bad for us, actually. I'm not sure how Water Gun Bibarel into Powder Snow, Weather Ball, Icy Wind, Abomasnow goes. Either way, it's probably better than this. Our HP is disappearing very quickly against this Bibarel. I think I can shield this up, maybe get to 2 moves. If I can get to 2 Weather Balls here, that could be very good for us. I am 1 more Sand Attack away from the next attack, but these Water Guns are doing so much to us right now. Weather Ball gets the shield, we just barely don't get the attack off, which means now we do have a shield advantage, but they might get to a couple attacks against our Gastrodon. In comes their next move. I don't know what it's going to be. It might be a Hyper Beam. It might be a Hyper Fang. Might just be a Surf. It is a Surf. It does quite a bit of damage to us. And now they're going to throw another move at the last second. I was hoping I could Mud Slap them down. I guess not quite enough here. I'm going to invest fully, though, in our Abomasnow. I hope it's going to be able to sweep this game, but saying I'm going to be switch locked in with a permanent Rock Tomb debuff, I'm not sure that there's much I can do. Icy Wind coming through. Our only win condition at this point is hoping their final Pokemon is actually kind of weak to Abomasnow. Maybe like a Gliscor, maybe a Drifblim, something that we can hit for super effective Ice-type damage. Rock Tomb comes through, debuffs our attack stat. I don't want to take too many extra Sucker Punches here, but I also know potentially one of our only win conditions is having enough energy to be able to reach 2 moves against whatever they might have in the back. Weather Ball comes through, they're able to get knocked out there. Our Abomasnow has energy. Hold on, okay, there is a chance. We have Icy Wind to lower the attack of this Togekiss. We have as well Weather Ball, which we might be able to reach before getting Charmed down. As long as we can reach this move, which we can knock out the Togekiss. There is still that Bibarel in the backline. Can we survive the Water Guns? Who is going to win this game? We Powder Snow down somehow, winning the game when we were in such a bad spot, swapping our Ground type into the Water type at the start. All right, next game is a Togekiss in the lead. This time, safe swapping a Spiritomb, and we have Icy Wind for this Pokemon. We can debuff them, make it so it's not going to be anywhere near as impactful with these Sucker Punches, and then swap right on into our Hippowdon. The main reason I come in with our Hippowdon here is I know this Pokemon is going to be able to hit for that super effective damage against that Togekiss if it does come back in. Rock Tomb going to be thrown against us here. Our opponent is going to be able to maybe reach another move. I was honestly a little off in my counts here. I should have gone for the move before now. Instead, now I have to double shield our Shadow Hippowdon, which, don't get me wrong, I like this Pokemon, but that is a lot to try to invest into this pick right now. Our opponent brings back in, actually they show their third Pokemon. It is a Gastrodon, which means they were ABA weak to our Abomasnow. Because we know this information now, potentially I want to save this energy here, come back in with our Abomasnow, and because they have to go for Body Slams here, I know I can survive this attack and potentially still get some use out of my Abama. We still also have our Gastrodon in the backline, which should be a pretty helpful Pokemon against this Gastro later on this game if they do keep it around, and all the energy that we still have on our Hippowdon should be able to knock out the Togekiss. In fact, Togekiss comes back in here. It's going to be able to potentially charm us down, but not before a Weather Ball will be thrown. Our opponent does shield the attack up, but now we're almost at 2 Weather Balls here. We can go for one, we can go for another in just a second. This should be enough to knock them out after we do land the second one. The first one, yeah, not quite enough. We don't have any fast move pressure with both Sand Attack and Mud Slap, so we're going to guarantee the knockout with this next Weather Ball. Our opponent, no shields remaining, ends up letting it go down, and now our own Gastro should be able to neutralize theirs and take us to the win in this game. They would likely need 2 Earth Powers or 2 Water Pulses, whatever nuke move that they have to knock us out. Yeah, Water Pulse comes through, but we have the Body Slam ready to go, which would knock out their Gastrodon, and we're able to pick up the win in that game. And with that, we're able to end the day with a 4-1 set. Shadow Hippowdon is so awesome in this meta. It's crazy to say. I didn't think this Pokemon, honestly, was ever going to be that viable. Sand Attack is not a great fast move in my opinion, but because it's so spammy, it can outpace a lot of the squishier Pokemon in this meta, and having Scorching Sands as well as just a lot of good coverage against most of the meta here, it feels like a great pick and a Pokemon that got me back into the 2900s, potentially into range of a Legend push tomorrow. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.